So waking up from my coma was a pretty intense process. You know, in the movies they show you what it looks like for people to wake up from a coma, and it looks like they're waking up in the morning to come to school like you guys did today. And that is absolutely not at all what it's like to wake up from a coma. So because I was on so many drugs, as they were weaning me off of these drugs, it was making me hallucinate. And it was terrifying. I had no idea what was going on. And so to give you an example of some of the hallucinations that I had, my fiance Amy, I remember this is one of my first memories of waking up. And it's real groggy. I opened up my eyes, I'm looking around, and I realize I'm in a hospital. And this isn't the first time I've actually woke up in a hospital. I've actually ended up doing quite a bit of damage to my body over my life. And so, like, for example, in 2006, I used to rollerblade, like down handrails and at skate parks, that kind of thing. And I had ruptured my spleen through a really bad rollerblading fall, which ended up me being in a hospital for 18 days and a whole bunch of complications from that, and actually had to get my spleen removed. But so from already experiencing that before in my life, when I was waking up, I kind of already had an understanding of what was going on. And so I woke up, I see him in the hospital, and I start to, piece that part together. And I look over to the right side of my bed and I see my fiance standing there. And, that made sense because she lives here too. We're both from Minnesota. And so it made sense that she was there. I was like, okay, something happened. Not sure what yet, but I'm in a hospital, I'm hurt. But then I looked to the other side of the bed and I saw my parents standing there. And that's when it really hit me that something serious must have happened. Because my parents live in Minnesota. For them to have gotten on a plane and fly out to Missoula, that must mean something serious must have happened. So then I looked over at Amy again, and she started walking up towards me from the foot of the bed. And something just wasn't right about her face, and what was going on is the whole side of her face, going down her jawline, up past her lips, and then up the side of her nose, all of that skin was missing. I could see through her skin, see her teeth, see her gums, see the side of her nose, her sinuses, everything. You could imagine, for me, I had no idea what was going on at that moment. I thought the two of us must have gotten in an accident and that was what happened to her. But then after a little while, that went away, and I realized that I was just hallucinating. That wasn't real at all. And there were tons of this going on. I mean, everywhere I looked were things that weren't real, and all of them were terrifying. And so from there, that's when I started learning about my injuries. Started to understand what had actually happened. I had heard I got in a speed flying accident. I heard I crashed on Mount Jumbo. And so in total, with all of my injuries, I broke 4 ribs. I had a laceration in my liver. I had 8 broken vertebrae throughout my neck and back. I had badly bruised both of my lungs. And in fact, the lungs were the worst part of my injury. To give you an example of how bad they were bruised, so in this room right now, in the atmosphere, we have 21% oxygen. And we're all taking in 90 to 100% of the oxygen we need to survive. And so for me, at this time, I was on a ventilator, so they had actually cut open my throat and stuck a tube in there called a trach, and then I was hooked up to a machine that was breathing for me. And with that, they were pumping in 100% oxygen. So instead of 21% in this room, I had 100% of oxygen going in, and all that my body was able to absorb was 51% of what I needed to survive. So the doctors were very concerned that when I woke up, I was going to have some serious brain damage from the lack of oxygen. But then on top of that, I had spinal cord damage. And that was the one thing that really stood out to me, because everything else they were telling me about my injuries were things that I completely understood and could see that they were going to heal. Broken bones are going to heal, the laceration in my liver is going to heal, my lungs were already getting better, they're going to heal. But the spinal cord damage, that one stood out, because I knew that if I had spinal cord damage, there's a good chance this might be permanent. And so that one lingered in my head for a little while. And especially when they told me that what my diagnosis is, which is an incomplete C7 quadriplegic. And when I heard that term, quadriplegic, it made no sense to me at that time, because I could move my arms. And so I was like, no, I'm a paraplegic. I can move my arms, I'm fine. Quadriplegic, that means you're paralyzed from the neck down. Well, that's one of the biggest misconceptions with quadriplegic. All it means is that you would have impairment in all 4 limbs. So for me, the reason why, what kind of categorizes me as a quadriplegic is in my hands. I have full function in my arms, in my shoulders, in my chest, and on my back muscles in between my shoulder blades and spine. But with my hands, I ended up getting really lucky. I have about 85% function in my right hand. So the main thing that's affected with my right hand is my grip. So things like opening a soda bottle is kind of tough for me, but then something bigger like a pickle jar, that's pretty easy for me to open. But with my left hand, that's where most of the damage was. So you can see I can somewhat open my hand. I can somewhat open my fingers independently. However, if I have my hand upside down and I try to make a fist, that's as much as I can lift my fingers up. And so I have 0 grip in this hand. And so all of this was, setting in, and this is all within the first day of waking up, and then it was on to, okay, here are my injuries, I understand them now, so what do I need to do to get better?